Hey everyone, it's Cece here, and in today's video tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this really cute wall hanging that you can use to hang up all your accessories and jewellery. Now I just love the idea of hanging your accessories and jewellery up on display on a really cute little macrame piece that you've made yourself. So this project is really fun, it's also really easy to make, and you just need a couple of things. You're going to need a single strand twisted cotton cord in about a 3mm, and you'll also need a few pieces of dowel. So I've used 3 different sticks here today. Now the great thing about this piece as well is that there are so many different ways that you can hang things up on there. You can hang up your bangles, your rings, your earrings as well. There's all these different little holes that you can hook things into. I've even got my glasses hooked on the bottom row here. So really it's just a fantastic way to hang up your accessories rather than being in an ugly pile somewhere. I know that mine always get really tangled and messed up, so this is a lifesaver for me. So let's get straight into the project, and I will include a list of all the lengths of string that you need and the dowels in the description below, and I'll also mention exactly what you need as we go through the video. So to start, I'm just going to grab one of my 30cm lengths of dowel. I'm just going to pop it up on these hooks here so I can work off it hanging up. And then I'm going to grab all of my 2m lengths of cord, and I'm just going to start by grabbing one of the cords and then fold it in half. And to do that, I just like to bring the 2 ends together and then follow down the string, kind of folding it in half that way. And then you'll end up with the center point like so. And so now I'm going to grab that loop and I'm going to wrap it over the dowel using a Larks head knot to attach the string to the dowel. So I just have to do that with every cord. So again, I'm finding the center point of the next 2m cord, and I'm just going to take that center loop and put it over the dowel and use a Larks head knot to attach it to the dowel. So if you don't know how to create a Larks head knot, I have a tutorial available online, so I'll leave the link to that one in the description below. Essentially, you just keep going with creating those Larks head knots using every 2m string that you have till you have all the strings attached to the dowel. So now I have all 18 cords attached to my dowel, as you can see. And so the next step is I'm going to create these 3 triangle shapes that sit at the top. So to start, I'm just going to grab the first cord on the left and hold it across all the other cords, and then grab the next cord over and use that cord to create a double half hitch knot around that first cord. So you can see that I've got that first cord angled down over the other cords, and then I'm just going to grab the next cord and again create a double half hitch knot over the first cord. And so essentially I'm going to keep moving along, creating a double half hitch knot with each cord until I have a total of 5 double half hitch knots along this first cord that I have on the diagonal here. So this is my 4th double half hitch knot. I just got one more left to do. And then once I've completed this 5th double half hitch knot, I'm then going to count along 6 cords. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then grab that 6th cord and then hold it on a diagonal downwards and to the left. Then grabbing the next cord in the group, and I'm going to create a double half hitch knot with this cord. So essentially we're doing the same thing that we did on the first side, but we're coming back towards the left. And I'm just going to use all of these cords to to create another double half hitch knot. So again, I should end up with a total of 5 double half hitch knots on this filler cord here. So now that I've finished those 2 sides to the triangle, I'm just going to take one of the filler cords and bring it over the top of the other. And then the other filler cord becomes the cord that we use to create that double half hitch knot. So essentially we're bringing the 2 sides together and joining the triangle in the middle like so. So now we just need to repeat the same thing 2 more times. So we'll have 3 triangles at the top. So I'm just grabbing the next cord and bringing it across as my filler cord. And then with the next 5 cords after that, I'm going to create a double half hitch knot. So I'm creating that diagonal line downwards and to the right. Then count 6 cords over again and grab that 6th cord and hold it on a diagonal downwards to the left, and then using the 5th cord, so the one before that, to create a double half hitch knot, and then moving along using all those other cords to create another diagonal line. So I'll have 5 double half hitch knots in total on this side as well. And then once they're all finished, you just take one filler cord over the top of the other and use the other filler cord to create a double half hitch knot, and that will connect your 2 sides of the triangle together so they're meeting in the middle. So once you're finished with the 3rd and final triangle, you should have something that looks like this. And then we're going to now create a row of square knots which sits in a straight line underneath these triangles. So to start, I'm just going to grab the first 4 cords on the left here and create 1 square knot using these 4 cords. Now you want to line this up with the bottom of the triangles so it creates the straight line that we're after. So then I'm moving on to the next 4 cords and I'm going to create a square knot with these 4 cords and put that so it sits right underneath the bottom of that triangle there. And then moving on to the next 4 cords and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. And again, making sure I line up this square knot so it sits in line with the other 2 square knots I've created. And essentially I'm just going to keep working across the piece, creating a square knot with each group of 4 cords and making a nice straight line of square knots. So now I'm just finishing up this first row of square knots. You can see it's a nice straight line or thereabouts. And now I'm just going to create another row of square knots underneath using an alternating square knot pattern. So to do this, I'll just first move to these 4 cords. So 2 from one square knot and 2 from the adjacent square knot. And I'm using these 4 cords to create a square knot underneath it. So I've skipped the first 2 cords in the row and I've moved on to the next 4 and created that alternating square knot there. So now I'm moving on to the next group of 4 cords and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. And you want to put it up nice and tight so it sits right underneath the square knots above it. Moving on to the next 4 cords now and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. And then moving on to the next group of 4 cords. And essentially I'm just creating a square knot with each group of 4 cords. And when I get to the end, I should have 2 cords left over at the end that I'm not knotting in this row. Alright, so now I've finished that row. Essentially what we're going to do is repeat those 2 rows again until we end up with a total of 8 rows. So starting with the first 4 cords here on the left and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. And then moving along to the next group of 4 cords and so on. So I'm creating another full row of square knots. Now that I've finished this 3rd row, I am then going to create the 4th row, which would be the same as the 2nd. So skipping 2 cords and then using these 4 cords in the group, creating 1 square knot and moving all the way along the piece, creating that alternating square knot pattern. Okay, so you can see that I've continued knotting alternating square knots until I've ended up with a total of 8 rows. And so now we're going to create some sections that we can use to hold our little dowels. So to do that, we're going to grab the first 4 cords on the left, and I'm going to create a vertical row of 3 square knots. So that's 1, and then do another one here as well. So that's 2, and then 1 final one, and 3. So now we've got 3 vertical square knots on the side there, and we just want to do exactly the same thing with the 4 cords on the right. So grabbing these 4 cords and creating a vertical row of 3 square knots. Once that's done, we then want to create a row of square knots to join these 2 sides together. So I'm just grabbing 2 cords from this vertical row here and grabbing the next 2 cords over, and I'm going to create 1 square knot with these 4 cords. And so we want to pull on those cords nice and tight so everything sits kind of flat and straight. And then we're going to grab the next 4 cords over and create a square knot with these 4 cords. And what we want to do is line that up with that last square knot that we've just created. So we've got a straight line of square knots. So you want it to look like this. So now we'll move on to the next group of 4 cords. Again, creating a square knot with these 4 cords. And trying your best to line it up so you've got a nice straight line. Just want to continue creating square knots with every group of 4 cords until you get to the other side. And so once you finish that row of square knots, your piece should look something like this. And so now we just want to create another row of square knots underneath. And I'm going to start with the first 4 cords in the group on the left and create a square knot with these 4 cords. And then moving on to the next 4 cords and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. So we're again creating that alternating square knot pattern. And then moving along again to the next 4 cords, creating a square knot with these 4 cords, and so on. You should end up with something that looks like this. And so now we need to create another row of square knots underneath here. So I'm going to skip those first 2 cords and start with these next group of 4 cords and create again another alternating square knot pattern. So creating a square knot there. And then moving on to the next 4 cords and creating another square knot with those 4 cords, and so on. Alrighty, now that that's finished, we're going to repeat this section again underneath here, and that's for our 3rd dowel to sit inside. So to do that, we're just again going to grab these 4 cords on the left and create another vertical row of 3 square knots. And then we're also going to create a vertical row of 3 square knots on the right side here, using the 4 cords on the right. And so now we're repeating the same thing as above, just grabbing these 4 cords here and using these 4 cords to create a square knot. So I've missed the first 2 cords on the left and I'm using the next 4. And then just creating that full row of square knots, making sure that it sits nice and straight across the piece. Okay, so now I've completed 2 rows at the bottom here. And so what I'm going to do is just finish this off by creating 3 more triangle shapes down the bottom here in the same way that we did at the top. So grabbing the first cord and bringing it across on a diagonal, and then using the next 5 cords to create a double half hitch knot around that first cord. We're creating that downwards diagonal line. Once that is done, we count 6 cords over and grab the 6th cord, pulling that 6th cord over on the diagonal and then using the other 5 cords before it to create a double half hitch knot around that 6th cord. So we're creating that downwards diagonal line to the left. We just need to finish this triangle by joining these 2 cords together in the middle, using one to create a double half hitch knot around the other. And so once we finish that triangle, we need to repeat that another 2 times. So I'm grabbing the next cord over and then holding that downwards to the right over the other strings and using that cord as my filler cord, using the next 5 cords to create some double half hitch knots around my filler cord. And now I'm counting 6 cords over, grabbing the 6th cord, holding that one on a diagonal downwards and to the left, and then using those 5 cords before it to create a double half hitch knot with each of those cords. So I've got another diagonal line. Just finishing this off now by attaching these 2 cords together using a double half hitch knot and then bringing the triangle together in the center. Just do that one more time, creating that final triangle on the right hand side here. So now your piece should look something like this. And so all we have to do now is insert our dowels, and to do that we just pop them in through these little vertical rows of square knots that we've made. And you can see that they just hold in place nicely. We'll just need to grab the other dowel as well and do the same thing for this second section here. And you can leave this extra length if you'd like. You could hang hats, maybe some scarves or some necklaces as well. So now I just need to trim the bottom of the piece. So I'm going to make sure all these ends are the same length. So you can cut this in whatever shape you like, maybe a triangle or a zigzag pattern, but I'm just cutting mine in a straight line like so. Now for me, those ends of the dowel are a little bit too long. I want mine to be shorter, so I'm actually going to get a saw and cut them a little bit shorter so they're a better length. Now the final thing we need to do is attach a cord to the dowels to hang this piece up. And so I have a 90 centimeter piece of cord here that I'm going to use to hang my dowel. And I'm just going to use a constrictor knot to attach the string to the end of the dowel here. So I do have a tutorial for the constrictor knot. I'll leave the link in the description below. But essentially you just kind of loop it around to the left and then over to the right and then pull the end back through the loop and then pull it nice and tight, and you'll end up with a nice and neat hanging knot. So I'm just going to do that on the other side. So you make sure your string is coming around from the back, and then you just loop it round one side. Get that out of the way, loop it around, and then loop the string again around the other way, and then pull the end back through itself, and then pull that nice and tight. Now, if you create the constrictor knot like what I've done and you find your hanging cord is too long, you can just adjust it by pulling the constrictor knot around and making that top length of string a little bit shorter. So I think that's much better now. And so now my piece is all ready to be hung up. I think what I will do is add a couple of beads to these ends here. So I'm just going to grab these two cute little blue beads that I have and pop them on to each side of these hanging cords, just to add that finishing touch to the hanging. Once I've fed my beads through, I like to secure them in place with a simple overhand knot. And then just trimming this excess cord off now to make it look neat. Now just repeating the same thing on the opposite side. So now your finished hanging should look something like this, and you can just come along with all your accessories and hang them with all the different areas that you can use. So you can use the dowels to put bangles on or rings. You can also hang earrings in the top section by hooking them onto the holes, or I like to feed the studs through the cotton. You can also hang things on the sides of the dowels. So many different options with this cute little wall hanging. So there you have it, guys. That's how you create your very own wall hanging to hang up all your beautiful accessories. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's tutorial. And if you love this, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I do release plenty of other beautiful projects that you can make for yourself at home. Thanks again for watching, and here's to finding our peace and creativity.